My name is Sarah. I am 34 years old. And the air left the room the moment Dr. Evans looked at my 20-week baby bump and then up at my eyes to say, "If you continue this pregnancy, you will be dead in 3 months." I gripped the cold metal armrests of the chair so hard my knuckles turned white, waiting for him to smile to tell me he had mixed up the charts, or that this was some kind of sick test of my maternal instincts. But he didn't smile. He just slid a box of tissues across the mahogany desk and placed a glossy pamphlet on top of it that had the words "Palliative Care" written in soft, calming blue letters. My husband, Mark, made a sound I had never heard a human make before. A choked, strangled sob that sounded like something was breaking inside his chest. "There has to be another way," Mark stammered, reaching for my hand, his palms sweating and trembling against mine. "Chemo, radiation, surgery. We have insurance. We have savings. We will go anywhere." Dr. Evans took a slow breath, the kind of breath a man takes when he has delivered bad news 1,000 times and it never gets any easier. "The tumor is aggressive, Mark," he said, his voice level and devastating. "It feeds on hormones. The very things sustaining the baby are fueling the cancer like gasoline on a fire. We cannot operate safely while the uterus is this expanded. We cannot use the necessary radiation without terminating the pregnancy. If we wait until the baby is viable, the cancer will have spread to Sarah's brain and lungs. It will be too late." I froze, feeling a tiny, distinct flutter low in my abdomen, a kick. It was the first time the baby had moved all day, and it felt like a secret signal. A Morse code tap against my womb saying, "Asterisk, I'm here. Mom, I'm here. Asterisk, so the choice is me or her." I whispered, my voice sounding tinny and far away. "The choice," Dr. Evans said, leaning forward, "is to save your life today, or to lose both of you tomorrow." Just then, the room seemed to tilt sideways, and I realized with terrifying clarity that the man in the white coat wasn't offering me a choice at all. He was offering me a sentence. Before I tell you what I did next, I need to say that this story involves sensitive topics regarding cancer, higher risk pregnancy, and facing mortality. So please take care of yourself while listening. If you have ever had to make a decision where there was no right answer, please gently tap the like button to show that we aren't alone in the hardest moments of our lives. For 3 years, Mark and I had lived our lives in 2-week increments, waiting for ovulation, waiting for a period, waiting for a line on a stick to turn pink. We had spent thousands of dollars on specialists, vitamins, and acupuncture, turning our bedroom into a sterile laboratory of timed intimacy and anxious hope. When that second pink line finally appeared 4 months ago, we screamed so loud the neighbors texted to ask if we were okay. I was finally going to be a mother. I had bought the crib, painted the nursery a soft sage green, and started a journal where I wrote letters to the little girl we had already named Hope. Everything was perfect until the back pain started, a dull, gnawing ache between my shoulder blades that I assumed was just my body making room for the baby. I ignored it for weeks, blaming it on the relaxin hormone, blaming it on my posture, blaming it on the extra pillow I used at night. But then came the cough, dry and hacking, and the night sweats that soaked the sheets. And finally, the lump I found while showering, hard as a stone and sitting right above my collarbone. Now, sitting in that sterile office, the silence stretched out like a rubber band about to snap. "Book the procedure," Mark said, his voice cracking but firm. I whipped my head around to look at him, shock flooding my system like ice water. "What?" I asked, pulling my hand away from his. "Dr. Evans is right, Sarah," Mark said, tears finally spilling over his lashes and tracking through the stubble on his cheeks. "We can try again. We can adopt. But I cannot. I cannot lose you. I won't do it. I am not walking out of a hospital with a baby and without my wife." "Mark," I said, covering my belly with both hands, shielding her. "She just kicked. She is a person. She is hope. She isn't viable yet." Mark shouted, the sudden volume making me flinch. You are my wife. Don't ask me to bury you." "I'm not asking you to bury me," I said, a strange, cold calm settling over me. "I'm asking you to be a father." Dr. Evans cleared his throat, looking uncomfortable as he witnessed the disintegration of our marriage in real time. "Sarah," the doctor said gently, "I need you to understand the reality. If you refuse treatment now, the pain will become unmanageable within weeks. Your organs will begin to shut down. There is a very high probability you will go into cardiac arrest before the baby reaches 24 weeks. You will suffer, and it is very likely you will die before she can be born." I looked at the ultrasound photo pinned to the corkboard behind him, not mine. Just a generic one, and then I looked down at my own body. "I'm not terminating," I said. The silence that followed was heavy enough to crush bones. "Sarah." "Please," Mark begged, dropping to his knees right there on the ugly gray carpet of the medical office. "Please don't do this to me. Don't leave me alone." "Sorry, Mark," I said, tears finally falling hot and fast. "I can't kill her to save myself. I just can't. If I have 3 months, then I have 3 months. I'll take them." Dr. Evans closed the folder with a definitive snap. "Then we will manage your pain as best we can," he said, his tone shifting from physician to undertaker. "I suggest you get your affairs in order immediately." The drive home was the quietest hour of my life. Mark stared straight ahead at the road, his jaw clenched so tight I could see the muscle jumping under his skin, and I stared out the window at the passing world people, walking dogs, buying coffee, laughing at bus stops, wondering how the world could keep spinning when mine had just stopped. When we got into the house, Mark walked straight to the bedroom, took a suitcase out of the closet, and started throwing clothes into it. "What are you doing?" I asked, leaning against the doorframe because my legs suddenly felt too weak to hold me. "I can't watch this," he said, not looking at me. "I can't stay here and watch you commit suicide. I can't watch you get sick and die for a dream." "She's not a dream, Mark," I said, walking over and grabbing his arm. "She's our daughter, and I need you. I'm scared." He ripped his arm away, and the look in his eyes wasn't love, and it wasn't fear, it was anger. "You're choosing to leave me," he spat out. "You're making a choice. So I'm making one too. I'm not going to be a widower at 35 because you have a martyr complex." He zipped the bag, walked past me, and the front door slammed with a finality that echoed in my chest for hours. I was alone, pregnant, dying, and alone. I sank onto the floor of the hallway and howled. A guttural sound of pure grief that startled the cat from her nap on the stairs. But just then, as I curled into a ball on the hardwood floor, the phone in my pocket buzzed. It was my mother. "I'm coming," she said, her voice steady and hard as steel. "Mark called me. He's a coward. I'm packing the car. I'll be there in 3 hours." The next 8 weeks were a blur of agony and strange. Transcendent peace stopped my mother moved into the guest room, cooking bone broth and forcing me to drink green smoothies, rubbing my swollen feet and reading to me when my eyes grew too tired to focus on the pages. The cancer moved fast, just as Dr. Evans had predicted. By week 24, simply walking to the bathroom felt like running a marathon. I couldn't take the strong pain medication because of the baby, so I weathered the storm with Tylenol and meditation, gritting my teeth until they felt like they would shatter. Every scan showed the tumor's growing shadows on the ultrasound that looked like storm clouds gathering around the tiny, beating heart of my daughter. "She's growing well," the technician would say, avoiding looking at the mass in my chest. "She's 3 pounds now." "Good," I would whisper, clutching the paper sheet. "Take everything you need, baby. Take it all. It's 28 weeks. I started coughing up blood. My mother found me in the bathroom clutching the sink, staring at the red splatter on the white porcelain. "Hospital," she said, grabbing her keys. Now, we rushed to the emergency room, and they admitted me immediately to the higher-risk antenatal unit. Dr. Evans came to see me, his face grim. "Sarah," he said, sitting on the edge of my bed, "your oxygen levels are dropping. The tumor is pressing on your windpipe. We need to deliver her now." "It's too early," I rasped, my voice barely a squeak. She needs 2 more weeks. Just give me 2 more weeks. I can hold on, Kay said gently. You'll suffocate. And if you run out of oxygen, so does she. I closed my eyes and put my hand on my belly. 1 week, I bargained. Give me steroids for her lungs. Give me 7 days. I can do 7 days. He looked at my mother, then back at me, and nodded slowly. 7 days, he said. But, Sarah, you need to sign a DNR. If your heart stops during this week, we need to know if we are saving you or the baby. Save her, I said without hesitation. Always her. That week was a descent into hell. I slept sitting up because I couldn't breathe lying down. I drifted in and out of consciousness, having vivid dreams where I was walking in a beautiful garden with a little girl who had my eyes and Mark's chin. Mark never came. I checked my phone every time I woke up, hoping for a text, a call, anything. But the screen remained black. On the 7th day, exactly as the sun was rising over the hospital parking lot, my body gave up. I remembered the alarms. A high-pitched rhythmic beeping that suddenly turned into a solid screaming tone. I remember my mother screaming my name. Sarah, Sarah, stay with me. And then suddenly everything went white. I wasn't in the room anymore. I was floating above the bed. Looking down at the chaos, I saw nurses sprinting into the room, pushing a crash cart. I saw Dr. Evans shouting orders. Cutting my hospital gown open, I saw my mother being held back by a security guard, her face contorted in a mask of pure terror. And I saw myself pale, blue-lipped eyes rolled back in my head. Asterisk, it's okay. I thought, feeling a lightness I hadn't felt in months. Asterisk, I'm done. Just get her out. Asterisk, no pulse. A nurse shouted. Starting compressions. Stop, Dr. Evans yelled. Get the kit. We're doing a perimortem C-section. We have 4 minutes to get the baby out. I watched as they didn't even bother with anesthesia. I watched Dr. Evans take a scalpel and make a long, vertical incision down my abdomen. It was violent and fast and necessary. And then I saw her, small, purple, covered in VERNX. Dr. Evans pulled her out and she was limp. Asterisk cry. I willed her from my vantage point on the ceiling. Please, baby, cry. The team whisked her over to the warmer. They rubbed her back. They put a tiny mask on her face, and then a sound cut through the chaos within. Reedy wailed at, it was the most beautiful sound in the universe. She's alive. A nurse cried. It's time of birth. 6:04 a.m., Dr. Evans said, breathless. Now focus on the mother. We have a rhythm. Get the paddles. I felt a sudden, violent yank, like a hook catching behind my navel. And I was slammed back into my body with the force of a freight train. Pain, blinding, searing pain. I gasped, my eyes flying open, drowning in light and noise. She's back, someone shouted. BP is stabilizing. I tried to speak, tried to ask where my baby was, but a tube was being shoved down my throat, and the darkness took me again. I woke up 3 days later in the ICU. My hands were tied to the bed rails to keep me from pulling. Out the ventilator, my mother was asleep in a chair in the corner. Holding a rosary, I blinked, tapping my hand against the plastic rail. She woke up instantly, Sarah. She whispered, rushing over. Oh my God, you're awake. I made a writing motion with my hand. She handed me a clipboard and a pen. My hand shook so badly the letters were barely legible. Asterisk, hope. Asterisk, my mother burst into tears, but she was smiling. She's in the NICU, she said, stroking my hair. She's small, Sarah, but she's fierce. She's breathing on her own. She's perfect. I let out a breath I felt like I had been holding for 9 months. Dr. Evans came in an hour later, looking like he had seen a ghost. He checked my vitals, checked the incision, and then stood at the foot of the bed, shaking his head. You shouldn't be here, Sarah, he said quietly. You flatlined for 3 minutes. We thought we lost you. I pointed to the tube in my throat. Wanting it out, they extubated me that afternoon. And the first thing I did was ask to see my scans. "We need to talk about that," Dr. Evans said, pulling up a chair. "We did a full-body scan while you were unconscious to see the progression of the cancer, to see how much time you had left." I braced myself. I knew I was dying. I had just bought hope a life, and the price was my own. I was ready to pay it. "And?" I asked, my voice raspy and raw. "And ... He hesitated, looking at the file in his hands as if it were written in an alien language. "We can't find the primary tumor." I stared at him. "What?" "The mass in your chest," he said. "It's significantly smaller. It's necrotic dying." "How?" I asked. "I didn't have chemo." "We aren't entirely sure," Dr. Evans admitted. "There are documented cases, rare cases, where the trauma of birth, the massive shift in hormones, and the body's immune system rebooting after the pregnancy creates a storm that attacks the cancer cells. It's called spontaneous regression. Your body, in its effort to save the baby and heal the surgical wound, seems to have recognized the cancer as a foreign invader and launched an all-out attack." I lay there, stunned. "Am I cured?" "No," he said cautiously. "You still have cancer cells in your system. You still need chemotherapy. You still have a long fight ahead of you. But Sarah, the death sentence is gone. You have a fighting chance, a real one." I started to laugh, and then the laugh turned into a sob. My body had tried to kill me for months. And then, in the final moment, it had decided to fight for me instead. 2 weeks later, I was wheeled into the NICU. I washed my hands for 3 minutes, put on a gown, and sat in the rocking chair next to the incubator, and there she was. Hope, she was tiny, wired up to monitors, wearing a diaper that looked 3 sizes too big. But when I put my hand through the porthole and touched her skin, she turned her head toward me. She knew me. "Hi, baby," I whispered. "I'm your mom. We made it." Just then, I heard footsteps behind me. I stiffened. Recognizing the gate before I even turned around, Mark was standing in the doorway of the NICU pod. He looked terrible. He had lost weight, his eyes were sunken, and he was holding a store-bought teddy bear that looked ridiculous in his shaking hands. "Sarah," he choked out. I didn't turn my chair. I kept my eyes on my daughter. "She's beautiful," he said, taking a step closer. "My mom told me. She told me you both made it. It's a miracle." "It wasn't a miracle," I said coldly, finally looking up at him. "It was a fight you weren't here for. I was scared." He wept. "I was so scared of losing you. I thought if I left, I wouldn't have to watch you die. I was wrong. I'm so sorry. Please, Sarah, let me meet her." I looked at the man I had married, the man I thought would be my partner in everything. I looked at the teddy bear, and then I looked at the little warrior in the glass box who had fought harder for life in 7 days than he had in 7 months. "You can look at her," I said quietly, "but you aren't her father. Not today." He flinched as if I had slapped him. "Sarah, please." "You left us to die, Mark," I said, my voice steady. "You packed a bag and you walked out. You don't get to walk back in just because the scary part is over. You don't get the victory lap when you didn't run the race." I pressed the call button for the nurse. "Please escort this visitor out," I said when the nurse arrived. "He's upsetting the baby." Mark stood there for a long moment, tears streaming down his face, before he turned and walked away. That was 2 years ago. Mark and I divorced 6 months later. He tried to fight for custody, but the judge didn't look kindly on a man who abandoned his dying pregnant wife. He sees Hope on weekends, supervised. He is trying, but some trusts are like glass ones, shattered. They can never be glued back together without showing the cracks. As for me, I did 6 rounds of chemo. I lost my hair. I threw up until I saw stars. I fought with everything I had, and today, I am in remission. I am sitting in the park watching a sturdy, curly-haired toddler chase a butterfly across the grass. She falls down, scrapes her knee, and looks up at me with big, watery eyes. "Mama," she cries. I scoop her up, kissing the dirt off her knee, holding her solid. warm weight against my chest. People tell me I was brave. People tell me I made a sacrifice no one should have to make. But they are wrong. I didn't choose to die. I chose to bet on life. And looking at her now, knowing that my heart beats because hers forced mine to keep going, I know one thing for sure. I didn't save her. She saved me. Life is rarely black and white. And sometimes the only way to find the light is to walk straight through the darkness. What would you have done if you were in my shoes? Would you have taken the doctor's advice? Or would you have taken the risk? Tell me your honest thoughts in the comments below.